Horikita gets a lot of hate in the community, and I'm gonna agree that sometimes it's unwarranted, but make no mistake, there are certain scenes in the novels that make it really, really difficult to like her. I'm just like, why is you here, girl? Why is you making these decisions? Why do we exist? Just to suffer? Is that it? And before, none of this stuff mattered because, like, the anime cut it out, nobody was talking about it, but now some of those plot lines are starting to affect the plot lines for season 4, so I have to go in and correct it. Because if you guys are watching season 4, you probably know about the deal between Ainakoji and Horikita to see who can score higher, but have you ever wondered, why does Ainakoji even care about Horikita being the student council? Why does that matter? Where did that deal come, like, why did that originate? Like, where did it come from? If you watch the anime, you have no clue, but it goes way deeper than you think. So today we're going to explore the passages, the origins of this deal, how it comes by, and how it leads into one of the most infuriating moments that I have ever witnessed in Classroom of the Elite. That the first time I crashed out, bro. The first time I read it, I definitely crashed out. So I want to share that all with you. So we're going to leave this illustration for a bit, but make no mistake, we are coming back into it. And we are going to dive into the novel. By the way, if you want to see me react to all 4 episodes of the season, including the OP and ED, just go to patreon.com/satisfy. So the first passage we have over here is a conversation between Horikita and Ainakoji. So let's just dive right into it. Not really. Now's as good a time as any. To think this sort of uncommon visitor would come. The one I could see through the monitor is Horikita's brother, who had been the student council president until a while ago. I unlocked the automatic door and welcomed him into the dormitory. Meanwhile, I poured the boiling water into the cup with the tea bag in it. Not too long after that, the doorbell rang. I'd rather not talk standing, so please come in. Likewise, if Horikita sees this, she'd definitely complain about it. Also, I'd like to avoid being seen with this former student council president by other students as much as possible. I invited the older Horikita into my room. Upon entering the room, the older Horikita noticed the presence of the black tea immediately. I was just thinking about drinking some. For a first year, you sure tidy up after yourself. I don't have any personal belongings. There's no need to go out of my way to tell him I just tidied up today. Unfortunately, by looking at the wet sheets faintly sticking out of the trash, he'd be able to tell that I cleaned the room either today or yesterday. Again, this scene didn't happen in the books, by the way. This scene is completely blank, and there's a reason Manabu showed up that's going to be very important. Coming all the way over to the first year dorm, do you have business with me, former student council president? The second semester will end next week. I don't have much time left at the school. The actual time he'll be attending school, after subtracting the weekends, will amount to roughly 2 more months. It'll pass in the blink of an eye. There's something I want to inform you of before I leave the school. It's about Nagumo Miyabi. Nagumo Miyabi. I don't think I need an explanation, but he's the current student council president from Class A of the second years. I only know him from the sports festival and the welcome ceremony for the newcomers, but he seems like a rather dark person to me. The vibes are definitely off with Nagumo. But regardless of what Nagumo may be, that has nothing to do with me. He is true, he is correct, but like we'll see if that holds up. I doubt you have anything to say to a mere first-year student like me. I'm not part of the student council either, like Ichinose is. I explained that, but the older Horikita continued without paying any mind. I had no intention of discussing this with anyone else either, but the circumstances have changed a bit. The circumstances have changed, huh? I maintained the traditions the school was founded on because I believed in the rules of the system and felt that this is the correct path. However, Nagumo is trying to overturn all of it. So again, this meritocracy stuff, Manabu is not a big fan of it. The stuff you're seeing in season 4, he is not a big fan of it at all. He tried his best to stop it. But, it is what it is. However, Nagumo is trying to, in all possibility, next year you'll be faced with an unprecedented amount of expulsions. Again, a lot of the themes for season 4 is coming from this conversation right here. He has yet to act openly as part of the student council, but I suppose it's only a matter of time. When Nagumo was still a first year, you were already the student council president, weren't you? If so, aren't you the one responsible for recruiting him? Ainakoji is basically the only person in the books that has the gumption to question Manabu. That's crazy, bro. That may be the case. The older Horikita accepted without any denial. After joining the student council, I made a single mistake. That would be my repeated failures in training my successor. The only one who I noticed any talent in was Nagumo, but it ended up developing ideals different from my own. The other second years, too, are all under Nagumo's control. That's strange. I can understand Nagumo controlling the second year's class A, but the other classes should be his enemies, right? He's already conquered the entire school year. I don't know what strategies he's been executing, but looks like he really is doing something that absurd. Yeah, Nagumo is much more threatening in the books, by the way. Like, I feel like the anime didn't touch upon a lot of it, but Nagumo has some really deep pockets, is all I'm saying. And he's gone I think he's pulled off something in his year that no other student in any year has ever pulled off. This year, among the first years, 2 applied for a position at the student council, Katsuragi and Ichinose. Both of them are promising, talented students, but I ended up not letting them join. It's precisely because their talents are so pure that I feared Nagumo would end up influencing them. But Nagumo gathered information behind the scenes and made contact with Ichinose. As a result, he forcibly invited Ichinose into the student council. Again, if you've only watched the anime, you have no idea that this took place because I don't think they went into this at all. So all the stuff that happens with Nagumo and Ichinose later on is all a question mark. It's like, well, how did that happen? Like, why did Ichinose not get accepted? Why did Manabu turn her down? Like, Manabu seems like such a more of a cold and calculated person in the anime, but he's really just looking out for a lot of people in his own way. What are you planning by telling me all of this? If you don't want to stand out, then use Suzune. Just like you've done in your exams so far, manipulate Suzune. Manabu's like, yo, let me slam my sister's head into the concrete, but also let me get Ainakoji to manipulate my sister. Brother of the year, ladies and gentlemen. Just like you've done in your exam so far, manipulate Suzune from behind the scenes. I will be the bridge between you and the student council. That's a rather unreasonable request. If you're in the council, your sister will gladly join. But now that you've stepped down, your sister no longer holds any interest in the council. Besides, regardless of whether your sister joins the council or not, I won't do anything. After a brief interval, I sipped some tea. The tradition you and your predecessors have protected. Any change to it would just either be the times changing or fate, wouldn't you say? I don't even need to say that. This man should already understand that. So Aineko is what is the big deal with Nagumo coming into power? Who cares, bro? Times change. Don't be a boomer. That's right. You may be spot on. There are still things I don't understand from this conversation, but there are also things I've begun to comprehend. As a student enrolled here, the older Horikita wishes to stop the actions of the student council that will be occurring next year. As such, he thinks he'll be able to make use of me conveniently. That's why he chased me all the way over to the first year dormitory. Looks like I've disturbed you. Even though he knows he won't be able to entice me without any tools of his own, it may just be that he no longer has room to care about things like that. So Ainakoji's Manabu's desperate. Man is desperate. It is what it is. For the record, do you mind giving me your contact information? This, by the way, is Ainakoji asking. What? I unplugged my phone from the charger and took it in hand. I'd like some time to think about putting your sister in the student council and manipulating her from behind. So this is why Ainakoji wants Horikita in the student council. It's not just a random whim. This basic conversation, and don't worry, there's even more to this. I'm just scratching the surface here, by the way. So you'll consider it? So you came expecting me to turn you down. It'll look back if I don't at least think it through. By showing him this unexpectedly positive reaction, the whole older Horikita felt disbelief. However, he did tell me his contact number without any hesitation. It's probably proof that he's just that wary of Nagumo Miyabi's student council. If I ever consider cooperating with you, I'll contact you. I'll be waiting without any expectation. In the end, the older Horikita never sat down and never took a sip of the tea before leaving my room. So as you can see, there is no reason, absolutely no reason for Ainakoji to get caught up in Nagumo and help Manabu. He doesn't get anything at all. There's nothing Manabu can provide for him that is going to be worth it. But Ainakoji later on finds a reason. So let's get into the second passage, okay? And again, this was This was the passage from like Sai and this is a conversation between Sai and Ainakoji. Like, there were a lot of cut moments from the anime. I don't even know where to start, by the way, on this. Like, let's move on to the next illustration here. Give me a sec. So you have the scene with Manabu like acting witness, right? And you have the scene with Sai acting witness as well. But during the scene taking place, there was a conversation between Sai and Ainakoji that was crucial to like Sai being a witness, because Ainakoji needed to make sure that Sai was the most reliable witness that was possible, okay? So let's go into the passage, and you are going to see why there is no witness more reliable than Sai, and there was absolutely no reason for Manabe to be there. Like, zero reason for Manabe to be in that scene. But I'll tell you what the reason is and why Ainakoji accepted it later, okay? So let's start the conversation here. Enrollment, but I remember Sudo wanted to purchase a point during the exam. So Ainakoji is asking Sai a series of questions. Yeah, I recall that. You and Horikita paid 100,000 points in total. I think it's been half a year or more since then, but time sure flies. There's nothing you can't buy with private points. That's what you said, no? So this Ainakoji's asking Sai. It's the truth. Didn't Sudo's expulsion get nullified? Yes, it's just the purchase of points, then it's grounded in logic, but if that's always permitted, then there would be no expulsion in the first place, would there? Whenever someone gets a failing grade, someone else just needs to cover up for them the same way, but by doing so, they'd be able to avoid expulsion. So again, let me go over that. Yes, if it's just the purchase of points, then it's still grounded in logic. But if there's always permitted, then there would be no expulsion in the first place. It's like, why don't people just keep on buying points for people, like, and bailing them out? But it's not easy getting your hands on private points. Sai is explaining now. This Class D miraculously maintained an abundance of points, but an average Class D would only have half that. Besides, it's not like your classmates would all be friendly towards you. It's not strange for the students to prioritize their private points, even if it means losing class points. Again, Ainakoji is not buying this. That is true, but the system itself is a defective one, is it not? As long as salvation via points is possible, the danger of expulsion in a test falls drastically. That might be the case. She did not deny it, but neither did Chabashira sensei look me in the eye. The problem is when I asked you to sell me points, you added a price tag to it. Chabashira sensei. Are you trying to say that it's too expensive after all this time? That's not it. What I'm trying to say is whether or not 100,000 points for a mark is something you made up or whether there's a basis for it. It seems like you were improvising on the spot, but it's hard to imagine that you'd be able to arbitrarily decide on the price of a mark on your own. Again, the fact that Sai gave 100,000 like as the cost for buying a point, Ainakoji's like, there's no way you're the one deciding that. No shot, bro. No shot. So like the conversation goes on to say, what are you trying to say, Ainakoji? The school has already established the fine details regarding points thoroughly, has it not? There would naturally be a manual to consult when purchase points is requested. If that's the case, then that's convincing. So Ainakoji is like, again, there has a manual, there's probably stuff, all these prices are already fixed, there's no way you're deciding it. In other words, you're saying that the price I gave you for a mark during Sudo's case was something prepared in advance by the school. Exactly. If you could answer me, please then. There was a delay. Chabashira sensei, who had been firing back answers straight away so far, choked on her words. It's not like I'll answer everything you ask me. Shall I assume that means you are unable to answer? Do what you will. Ainakoji is basically sussing out what parts Sai can answer and what parts she cannot answer. Then I'll just drop a hypothesis on my own. The school has a manual for any and all occasions, and in the case of point purchases, 100,000 points for a mark is something they had already determined in advance. Assuming all of this to be true, it gives rise to another question. It's whether or not we can purchase a mark for 100,000 points every single time there's a test. You're free to think whatever you want, but what is the meaning behind the stock? Right now, Karizawa, I deflected those words and continued. By the way, this conversation is actually probably the most important part in saving K, and I'll get to why afterwards. Is it only 100,000 points per mark for a limited period of time after enrolling? Or perhaps it rises every time you make a purchase. Or maybe we can't even make that sort of purchase again. Question after question keeps popping up. Please tell me which one of them is the truth. Cut it out already. Do you think I can really answer a question like that? Even if I were to answer, there's no way you can confirm the veracity of that answer. There is. I just have to ask you directly, Sensei. I forcibly made contact with her as she tried to avert her gaze. Right now, how much would 1 mark cost for the next midterm test? ... Sai Sensei stopped speaking entirely. As a teacher, you are obligated to answer, aren't you? If you won't answer, then I'll go ask another teacher the same question. And if they answer, then I can just report you to the school saying that the homeroom teacher of Class D is discriminating against us. Please keep in mind that I have that option available. Aina Koji is basically sussing out whether or not Sai would 100% have to answer or not. Of course, it's plenty possible that the other teachers won't be able to answer either. If that is the case, several possibilities come to mind. It might be the only 1 mark could be purchased, or maybe that they aren't allowed to answer unless someone's actually received a failing grade. So Ainako is like, okay, if Sai doesn't answer, there are a lot of ways for this to work, but he's basically sussing out, the main point of this is to basically suss out whether or not Sai has to answer. Keep that in mind, okay? It might mean that only 1 mark could be purchased, or maybe they aren't allowed to answer unless someone's actually received a failing grade, etc. But being unable to answer is yet another answer in itself. Brilliant, right? Like, if Sai can't answer, like, you are getting all the possible dialogue trees, all the different ways that this can go. It could mean that there's a manual prepared in advance for when a student's grades are insufficient. Are you planning on delving into the rules? At the very least, there are students doing exactly that. Ichinose, who's rumored to be saving up points, and then there's Ruan, who's sticking with private points. It's obvious when you consider them. They're all trying to figure out a strategy that could benefit their class through trial and error they conduct repeatedly daily. Very well, I'll answer your question. It is true that the clue to beating the school system lies in figuring out the rules regarding private points. Again, keep in mind, Sai is compelled to answer. Even she hates Aina Koji's guts. This was after the confrontation Aina Koji had with his father, where and then afterwards with Sai, where he basically just bashed Sai's head in with logic over and over and over again and told her that I am not going to be helping anymore. So Sai has no reason to help him out if it doesn't serve her, right? So she should not be forced to answer that. But the fact that she's answering is proof to Aina Koji that she's forced to answer. Naturally, students from past years have tried that approach from a variety of different angles, just like you're doing right now. Even the defective Class D isn't an exception to that. Some work quicker than others though, and the school too has established the finer details of the rules in advance in order to answer the questions the students have. Purchase of points, erasing violence from your record, and preventing expulsion. This is an interesting one, by the way, that nobody thinks of. Like, when you have violence in the school, that you like, if you aren't caught, like if there's not enough proof that you could, like, it's hard to like prove that there's violence, right? To get dinged for it. But what Sai is saying here now is that you can use private points to basically erase the fact that there was violence, even if there was proof. So keep that in mind. That is something that has not been explored yet. Points necessary for all of that are fixed, but a teacher is limited in the amount of things that they can say. As for why, it's because most of it is prohibited. No, not even that. There are probably many things even teachers aren't aware of. So I was right in assuming that you cannot answer my question. That's right. This solves one mystery, is that there are many things that are unable to answer us on regarding the special usage of the private points unless the condition for said usage has been met. The price for 1 mark at the next midterm has already been decided, and by telling us that, it would be possible to come up with a countermeasure. But if it remains unknown to us, we wouldn't be able to do anything reckless. But if they tell us 1 mark costs 100,000 points, then that'd be the end of that. That'd be the end of that. Does this have something to do with the matter at hand? No, I was just having a chat. Nothing more, nothing less. Of course, it also has nothing to do with the matter at hand. Chabashira-sensei is unable to grasp my true intentions. This is it. This is the moment. The reason Aina Koji spun this conversation, the reason why he wanted to know this information, the reason why he wanted to know if Sai has to answer or not is because once Sai has come to witness this event with Kei and Ruin on the rooftop, even if it comes down to deliberation and Sai hates them and Sai wants to screw them over, she can't, because if Aina Koji asks her point blank, is what I'm saying happened on the rooftop? She has to answer. There is no witness more credible in this entire school than Sai, which begs the question, why does he need Manabe? Oh, sorry, why does he need Manabe? I keep messing up Manabu and Manabe. Why does he need Manabu as a witness to the rooftop incident? And this next passage gives us a little bit of the clue as to why Manabu was the person he chose. The older Horikita sent me on my way, and I headed over to the corridor that leads to the rooftop. Wait, Ainikoji, what would you have done on the off chance that you failed to acquire Horikita's corporation? I wonder what I would have done. While saying that, I thought it over. I probably would have used the one who knew about me, Sakayanagi, instead. Why would he choose Arisu? What is the main thread between choosing Manabu and choosing Arisu? There's literally one answer. Both of those cases give him a challenge to take on at the school. With Manabu, the challenge is Nagumo. If he helps Manabu, he owes him one, so he has to take care of Nagumo. With Arisu, if Arisu helps him, then Arisu will use that as leverage to get him to compete with her. And why does he need competition? You guys aren't gonna like the answer, but as a Kyokai fan, this is the answer. The answer is because he wants to keep his relationship going with Kei. The only way the relationship can work is if she helps him with his plans, and the only way and the only reason he needs help with his plans is by having an opponent to go against. It's either Nagumo or it's gonna be Arisu. One or the other. Because those are the only two people in the school that form some sort of challenge for him. Those are the only two. That's the only reason. That's the only correlation between the two. Because again, if he wanted to just have a peaceful life with no opponent, no nothing, he wouldn't choose either of these people. He would only keep Sai, but he doesn't want that clearly from his actions. So with this all in mind, we go into the conversation with Horikita and Kushida, and it is one of the most infuriating things because Ainikoji's life is already hard by taking on this challenge, but Horikita makes it so much more tough. All right, let's get into the scene, okay? This, by the way, this illustration is basically for this scene. Like this illustration right here is this scene. It's a meeting between Horikita and Kushida that Ainikoji goes to. In the anime, Kushida is not present in the scene, and it is one of the biggest piece of cut content. It's crazy how big that change is. So let's dive into it, okay? I'm here. That was fast. So it's Ainikoji like wanting to meet up with Horikita, but he wasn't aware that Kushida was going to be there. Right after having that exchange with Horikita, someone beside her called out to me too. Good morning, Ainikoji. I've really encountered a truly unexpected pair. Has this ever happened before? For Horikita to be alone with Kushida. By the way, this was like after paper shuffle, so they are not on good terms. I can't help but think there's a third party present. I use my gaze to scan the surroundings. There's no one else here. As though responding to that, Horikita indifferently answers me. I had thought it was possible that Hirata might have been involved too, but that's not the case either. I don't mean to stick my nose into this, but which one of you invited the other? This is Ainikoji basically asking Horikita that. In response to that question of mine, Kushida gently smiled. Me, I invited Kushida out. That question was resolved with an answer that I did not think would be the case. No, I suppose this isn't unnatural. On the contrary, recently Horikita has been proactively attempting to resolve the problem of our conflict with Kushida. In all likelihood, this gathering too can be attributed to that. If it were only Horikita here, Kushida would not speak reservedly, but in a public location like this. She would have no choice but to wear her mask. Horikita did a good job drawing her out here. By the way, Horikita, how's it going with Sudo recently? How? What do you mean by that? Aren't you going to spend Christmas together with him? Is what I was thinking. And Horikita's like, ... There's no way. Yo, rest in peace for my boy. Sudo. It ended before it even began. She flatly replied like that. Really? Didn't Sudo ask you out? Isn't that something irrelevant? Damn, bro. Kushida had attempted to use my interjection to change the flow of the conversation here, but that was prevented by Horikita. Horikita, who by nature already possessed a bullish attitude, is using 2 points. Her predominance from having won during the test, and the fact that it's a public cafe to lay siege to the impregnable fortress that is Kushida. Also, Ainikoji, how much longer do you intend to stand around? If you have something to say, would you mind getting on with it? Right now, I'm busy talking to Kushida, is what she seems like she wants to say. Like this, she's saying this to the guy that helped her during Paper Shuffle. Well, not during Paper Shuffle, but during the sports festival that helped her during the kowtow scene, that helped her a little bit in the Zodiac exam by winning the rabbit group, that carried her in the Island exam. Brother, please. As a matter of fact, looking at it from Horikita's perspective, this is a valuable occasion. Sorry, I didn't expect someone to be present too. I'll leave it for next time. So Ainakoji is like gonna ask Horikita to join the student council, but he's like, nah, not here in front of Kushida. I decided to leave since I was clearly unneeded here. However, because it was a moment like this that, on the contrary, Kushida judged my presence was welcome. Isn't it fine, Horikita? If it's all the same, let's have Ainakoji join us for tea. She said that and stopped me from leaving. However, receiving the pressure of Horikita's silence, I didn't have the guts to calmly sit down. Maybe next time. Kushida is smart. She's like, oh, Ainakoji's gonna say something? That is interesting. Because one thing you have to keep in also mind going into this conversation is when Paper Shuffle won, Horikita and Kushida had that bet that, hey, like Horikita wins, Kushida stops interfering with Horikita, right? She said that, and when Kushida leans in to say, I only agreed to not sabotage you, which the implication there was nothing about not sabotaging Ainakoji behind Horikita's back. So Horikita already knows that Ainakoji is in danger, and just keep that in mind. I was going to say and I was going to ruin it, but I'm not going to say anything. Just keep that in mind, because that paints a very different picture of how this conversation goes. Maybe next time. I said that and hurriedly tried to break away. Wait, I'll hear you out here. No, this is Horikita, by the way. Wait, I'll hear you out here. No, it'll be a completely unrelated matter. Since I dislike the idea of Kushida overhearing unnecessary things, I tried to escape like that. Recently, I've been telling various people about the circumstances at hand, but as far as this case is concerned, there are absolutely no benefits in letting her know. Not even that. There's nothing but a mass of disadvantages in this case. By the way, Horikita should know this. Could it be that it's something you don't want her to overhear? So this is Horikita saying it. I got pointed out like that by the sharp Horikita. Is that true, Ainakoji? Kushida looks at me with sad eyes. Of course, I had every intention of denying it immediately. However, Horikita came around again, as if to seal that off. I'm sorry, but she's also a member of our... Yeah, man, the girl that betrayed you like 3 times. 3 exams she tried to betray you. Yes, a member of our class, by the way. Oh, keeping secrets like that... Oh my goodness. Keeping secrets like that is unnecessary. That's not it. This has nothing to do with the class. At best, this is between me and Horikita as individuals. I see, then I don't mind. This has something to do with me, right? Say it here. I'll have to decline. Then what you have to say right now, I'll never hear you out elsewhere. Brother, please. Horikita, stop. I know you want to fix her, but even this is too far. Like, bro, when I was reading this, I was so mad. I'm like, why are you so unreasonable? And you know the dangers already. Apparently, Horikita's resolve has been firmed. Perhaps she thinks speaking to me without hiding anything is the first step towards improving her relationship with Kushida. As always, Kushida's expression was overflowing with kindness. By the way, Ainakoji is a much more calm individual than I am. I would have crashed out at her here and then. I'm like, do you know who I am? I hard carried you through 2 exams. You may have gotten beaten up and I didn't tell you about it, but we don't talk about that. So as in the sports festival, Ainakoji could have stopped Horikita from being beat up by revealing there was a traitor and all that stuff, but he didn't, because that made the information that made the information he got from Manabe and her friends of bullying Horikita, and then he used that to... It's a whole thing. I'll maybe explain. If you know, you know, but basically it's like by letting Horikita get beat up, the blackmail he had on Ruin was actually effective. If he didn't let Horikita get beat up, then the blackmail he had of Ruin, like the recording he had of Ruin planning to attack Horikita, would have just been a plan. It wouldn't have been carried out. But by having it being carried out, it is much more effective blackmail. So that was the only situation where Ainakoji kind of screwed over Horikita. But the other stuff was good. The Island exam and the Zodiac exam, he hard carried. A Paper Shuffle is not another, he kind of gave Ruin an out, so I won't talk about that. But 2 out of 4 exams is not bad, bro. Kushida. As always, no matter how many times one gets lured into a swamp and no matter how many times one comes close to dying from it, just by seeing that smile of hers, maybe this time is something they'd end up thinking. Anakoji's monologues are crazy, by the way. I may be unable to convince them here by fabricating an appropriate story, but I doubt Horikita, who is on guard now, will be accepting the proposal I'm about to tell her in the future either. Understood. I'll be speaking frankly. Is that fine? Yes, tell me. Do you have any intention of joining the student council? No use crying over spilt milk. I don't know how Horikita will take this. I already stated my business as it is. I'm sorry, but I'm not keeping up. She tilted her head as if to ask why I'm saying this to her. Isn't the context deeply lacking? Why did you say that? I want to talk more about that as well. Very well, continue. Is it fine, Horikita? The one who interrupted me was Kushida. Fine, what do you mean by that? It's about the student council, so I think Horikita's brother might also be involved in this matter. Is it okay if I end up hearing this? Kushida actually has more, she's playing this up to basically guilt trip Horikita into letting her hear it, but she is right. She shouldn't be overhearing any of this because she's like, you're gonna give me this information? Bro, this is Christmas for sure. Ever since middle school, you've known about my brother. What are you saying now after all this time? The reason Horikita used her brother as a witness, too, is related to the fact that Kushida was aware of their relationship as siblings. As long as it's not something to hide, she'll be using it effectively. Is that what she means, huh? This isn't something that'll be over quickly. I firmed my resolve and took a seat beside them. A certain person desires your induction into the student council. A certain person? Your brother. Of course, strictly speaking, the older Horikita requested no such thing. He only told me I was free to choose whether to use Horikita or not. However, to make Horikita take action, I have no choice but to use her brother. Why is my brother telling me to join the student council? That sounds absurd. Looking slightly dissatisfied, Horikita repudiates it. Yo, bro, what are these hard words? Am I illiterate? It's the truth. If it really were the truth, then my brother should have told me this directly. Why did he go through you? Do you think that brother is the type to tell you directly? Yo, Ainakoji is coming up with this stuff on the spot, by the way. This is good, man. I don't, in the first place. He's not one to say things like join the student council. In other words, Horikita did not believe my words from the very beginning. If it's a sibling relationship that has frozen up to this extent, it would only be interpreted as a lie. However, even so, Kushida's existence is unnecessary if I'm to fully deal with the truth. Once the third semester begins, she'll learn of Ruin's downfall, and she may become convinced that I'm the one behind the secret maneuvers. If that happens, it'll get even more troublesome. Leaving aside that this would have inevitably happened, such a time does not necessarily have to be now. Again, Ainako is like, I don't need to draw aggro from Kushida when I'm about to take on Nagumo. That is not something that is necessary, by the way. I have no intention of playing along with your lies. What exactly is your point? It's the truth. If you think I'm lying to you, why don't you directly confirm it for yourself? I changed the subject from a lie I cut in to the truth. I changed the subject from a lie I cut in to the truth. You're acting rather bullishly. Bullish or not, you're doubting me, right? Then you can just contact him. Then you know this is so cute. Then you know my brother's contact number? I don't know, but since you're his sister, isn't it obvious for you to know? I don't know. If you don't mind, shall we try contacting Miss Tachibana? Tachibana, she's the one who acts as my brother's secretary. Yep, I've talked with Miss Tachibana many times before. I know her contact information. As expected, Kushida, it seems she's been making friends even in unexpected places. So, Kushida, this isn't from the goodness of her heart. Letting this play out more and more, Kushida's like, oh, take notes. I am getting so many attack angles, it's crazy. It's okay even if I really confirm it, right, Ainakoji? If it turns out to be a lie, the consequences will be heavy. Please do as you wish. Either way, if the older Horikita realizes my strategy, he'll match it accordingly. Everything Horikita tries to confirm will be rewritten into truth. Thank you, senior. Please excuse me. Having finished calling... Oh, thank you, senior. Thank you, senpai. Look, why is it a senpai here? Having finished calling, Kushida began to operate her phone. Soon afterwards, the Horikita's phone briefly rings. Apparently, she successfully acquired the older Horikita's contact number and has forwarded to Horikita. Thank you, Kushida. No, you're welcome. Even though there were people around, having to show such a friendly response to Horikita. I love Ainakoji just internally roasting people on his monologue. It's my favorite genre of monologue. It's impressive that she didn't let any of it show. Horikita drops her gaze down to her phone screen, and I had thought she would call immediately, but her hands did not move, and she kept on gripping her phones in both hands. Phew. A deep sigh. No, a deep breath. To be this nervous just calling your family is... It's just roasting them both in his monologue. If everything turns out to be a lie, you should prepare yourself. No need for caution. This is Horikita's gamble. There's no way her brother could possibly be telling her to join the student council. Yet the fact that I'm brimming with confidence concerns her. Even as she thinks this may be a bluff, she also thinks it may be the truth. If she could somehow confirm the truth without having to directly contact her brother, that would be ideal for her. But that's an impossible task. Horikita, who could not bring herself to trust me, firmed her resolve and pressed the call button. For a few seconds, she pressed the phone near her ear. Perhaps the person on the other end of the line answered, but the fact that Horikita had become even more nervous was conveyed. It's me. It's Horikita Suzune. Horikita speaks in a formal manner. I asked Miss Tachibana for your contact information. And I called you brother. Then, showing us a flustered look that one cannot usually see on Horikita, even though she herself probably doesn't wish to let us see, she asked the necessary question. Then she was probably told that the indication what is the sentence? Then she was probably told that the induction into the student council matter I was talking about to her about earlier was true. Yes, thank you very much. Please excuse me. A pause after ending the call. Then she intensely glared at me. It was the truth, wasn't it? Why do I have to? Why do I have to be glared at? Why are you acting the role of the bridge? It's because that's baffling to me. It's a true, easy to understand manner. Certainly, no matter how one looks at it, it's unnatural. Horikita, are you going to be joining the student council? No, I won't be joining. All of this stuff, bro, and she still won't be joining. Hold up, hold up. Your brother told you to join, didn't he? To join would be for my sake. Is that what he told me? But I doubt joining the student council will be for my sake. She is smart. It is not for her sake. But man, you just did so much damage to Ainakoji. You could just take this L. Even if it happened to be for the wish of an absolute existence like her brother, Horikita seemed to have no intention of going along with it. Even if I persist any further here, there's nothing to be gained. I'd like to stop giving Kushida unnecessary information at this point. Please, that'd be great. I got it. For the time being, please give me another chance to talk to you again next time. I think it'll just be a waste of time though, probably. It seems Horikita has also realized that I made a move to end... Oh my god, I can't read today, bro. It seems Horikita has also realized that I've made a move to end this, as she didn't do anything to stop me. What's important right now is to connect with her again. As long as Kushida is here, I cannot continue to speak any further. See you later, Ainakoji. From Kushida, who gently called out to me like that, I felt something unusual. Yeah, so this is the conversation, by the way. This conversation right here is the reason Kushida basically was able to figure out, it's like, oh, Nagumo is Ainakoji's enemy. Because there's no other way or reason or objective that he would want Horikita to be in the student council except for to spy on Nagumo. Since, maybe through our network, Kushida figured out that Nagumo and Manabu aren't on good terms or their ideals are too different, Kushida wanted to go to Nagumo and name Ainakoji as a troublesome existence. That's why you saw her at the beginning of midway through season 3 and the beginning of volume 8, or sorry, not volume 8, volume 9, to go to Nagumo and try to name Ainakoji as a troublesome existence. This entire conversation, and the only reason this happened is because Horikita completely screwed him over by being unwielding and making him spill his secrets in front of Kushida. Bro, I was so livid when I was reading this because I'm like, you know that she's going to sabotage Ainakoji. You know, because she literally told you. She's betrayed you 3 times. What do you think she's gonna keep her word here? Zero regard for it. And this doesn't help make her a good person. It doesn't bring her over to their side either. There's another incident that happens way down the line that makes that happen. This wasn't even somewhat effective. So it's it was one of the worst decisions, and it really, really, really screwed over Ainakoji.